Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Reddit Edit, where we edit people's Reddit questions. And today, what we're going to do is we are going to do a minimap. So, if you've ever played a RPG or Grand Theft Auto or anything like that, you've got that minimap in the corner. Somebody was asking, how would I do that? So let's do that. I've got a map here. I'm going to create a new timeline real quick. That. Perfect. Okay. So I've got a map that I've grabbed off the internet, and I've got this background image that we're going to use as our gameplay footage. And yeah, let's get started. We're going to put a fusion comp in. I'm going to put it underneath here. So if I take that out, I've got my gameplay footage. I'm just going to zoom in so it fills up the screen. Perfect. So our guy's walking through the forest. And we're going to have like a mini map up here. And then normally you'd have like all your RPG elements at the bottom and all that stuff. But we're just doing the mini map. So let's bring that mini map fusion back in, open it up. We're going to add a background. We're going to make it transparent. Excellent. Next, we're going to bring our map. Bring that in here. Now what we need to do is we need to determine the path that our adventuring party is going to take. Well, we're going to start from this little town here, follow our way up to this town, cross the bridge. We're going to trail the side of the forest, and there's a secret entrance in the mountains here. That's the path we're going to take. So we're going to draw that path. I'm going to grab a polygon, and I'm just going to merge it on top right here. So we're going to bring this into the foreground element, and I'm just going to start drawing. Let's start drawing. So we're going to go like this, like that, like this. Doing this real quick. We're going to clean it up afterwards so it bends a bit more. We're in town, cross the bridge, go around the forest. Staying outside the forest because it's full of spiders or something, and we make it to this little valley, and in here is the entrance to our secret dungeon. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to set it to modify only. So because I don't want to add any new points. And I'm just going to add a little bit of a border so we can see where our line is, though we're going to keep it invisible for this. So I'm going to grab all of these points and I'm going to smooth them out. And then we're going to come in here and clean them up. Actually, let's reduce this border width back down. So we're just going to make sure that it follows the road correctly, like that. Just adjusting it real quick. Trying to keep it on the road that's drawn on the map. Like that. And now we're off-road, so we don't have to. Perfect. So we've got our path. And this is the path that we're going to use to guide our adventuring party. And the way I'm going to do it is we are going, let's add a point first. Let's add a little point that's going to represent the center of our mini-map. So I'm going to grab a background. Here, let's move this over here. I'm going to grab a background. We're going to slap it on top. And I'm just going to grab a little rectangle. And I am going to make it a square, which would mean that the width would be 0.25, right? Not quite. If I go to image, custom, I'm going to make this 1080 by 1080 instead. There we go. Oh, that didn't really work. Background, image, 1080 by, oh, let's go here, 1080 by 1080. There you go. And now, if I do this, and I say my height is equal to my width, so I can modify it like that. So that's going to be the dot that's going to represent our adventuring party. Excellent. Let's change its color to a red, and that's perfect. Now, the thing is, we want it to be over here in the city. Well, let's do that automatically. So I'm going to go to my polygon. I'm going to remove the shape animation. Now that I've removed the shape animation, if I right-click, I can actually publish that shape. And it's going to show up as a modifier. The cool thing is, now that it's published, I can reference it in other places. So I'm going to grab a transform. I'm going to put it right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to control the center using the path. And now that allows us to create a path modifier, and we can attach that path modifier to the value of this shape right here. Look at that. Now you're probably saying, well, that's all well and good, but it's not in right position. That is indeed correct. It stayed. It didn't move over because I rechanged the size. Okay, we have to redo a section. So let's redo this. I'm going to do background, put that in here, and we're going to grab an ellipse instead, because I wanted it to be square. It was rectangle, but because I changed the aspect ratio, everything got messed up. So there you go. I'm just going to use an ellipse instead. The ellipse, I'm going to make the width and height identical, so I can control one and it'll change the other. There we go. Let's make it a little bit smaller, like that. We're going to change the background color to a red, and we're going to go back and put a transform. And that transform, the center, we're going to use a path, and the path is going to be this one. And now we're on top because I didn't mess with the dimensions of the other elements. So now it's in the right position. And that's great. So it's in the right spot. But we need to move it along the path. Well, the cool thing with that is if we go to our polyline here, our path, there's a displacement value. And this displacement value can be keyframed. And it basically displaces it down the path. What? So now what I can do is I can set a keyframe at the beginning, and around frame 80, let's say, they'll make it to the cavern. Let's reduce the size of that dot just a little bit more. There we go. And now let's see what that looks like. And look at that. It travels all the way down. Now, I should also be able to control. So if I go back to my transform, I should be able to go to spline. Let's hide this. All right, transform. We've got our displace right here. Huh. I thought I'd be able to, but I guess the displacement does it a bit different. Okay, well, we'll leave it like that. Yeah. Ignore me. I'm going to try to smooth out the motion of it. The next thing that we need is we need to be able to keep this dot in the center. So the best way to do that is I'm going to grab a black background, and I'm just going to replace the map with the black background. So all we're left with is this red dot. We're going to track this red dot and then stabilize the shot. So we're going to use a planar tracker like this, and we are going to track this dot like this. Perfect. And let's say point hybrid, sure. And we're going to go translation. So up, down, left, right. And the reason I'm doing it on a black background is so that the tracker doesn't get confused by the details of the map. All I really wanted is to track the red dot. I'm going to set that keyframe and then go forward. It's now in position. We're going to go back to that keyframe, go backwards, and we're done. Now I can come here in operation mode and say stabilize. And now you'll see that it's not really in the middle because it's moved around and everything, but the dot will always stay at that same position. So what we can do now is we can bring the map back in and keep this background because I need a black background in a second. And we can add a transform and reset it back in the center. But first, let's make our circle for our minimap. So I'm going to bring that background in. I'm going to grab an ellipse, invert it, and we're going to say you're equal to this, and now I can zoom in like that. Perfect. Now I want to set the position, that red dot, to be right here in the middle. So I'm going to add another transform right here, and I'm just going to move everything over like that and like this. Now I want to see where the actual center is, so I'm just going to click on my ellipse with control, so it's part of the selection, and now this is the actual center of the ellipse. So now I can do this and position that. Like that. Now that dot is in the middle of that ellipse. Finally, what we're going to do, well, not finally, there's two more steps. What we're going to do is this transform, I'm going to set its pivot back on top of this dot. So I'm going to grab this pivot, move it over, and just grab it and put it right there. The reason I'm doing this is that now I can use the size and zoom in. And it's going to actually zoom in from, it's going to use that dot as the center of the zoom. Let's just adjust it. There you go. There we go. So now I can zoom in a bit. The map's a little blurry, so I'm just going to add a sharpen. Like that. That's a bit much. Let's reduce that a little bit. A little bit better. I wish I had a better map, but this is more than adequate. Maybe make that circle just a little bit bigger. Yeah, that looks good. Now, the problem is I don't want all this black around it. So we're going to grab another background. We're going to grab all of this and slap it on top. And then put that out on the media out. This background is going to be transparent. And I'm going to grab another ellipse, actually the same one. And we're going to invert it. So now it's only keeping the map, and we're just going to make it a little bit bigger to give it a little bit of a black border. Now, normally, you'd like add some nice filigree, like, details and fantasy things. I'm not going to go to that. My point was to show you how to do this map. So now that we've got this, I can go back to the edit and look at that. We've got our little map that moves us around. Let's say we've got our gameplay. We can now grab the map and move it to its proper position. We can make it a little bit bigger if we wanted to, or we could go back into the we could go back into the Fusion comp, open in Fusion, could go back into the Fusion comp and grab this and make it just a little bit bigger like that. And then come back here and make that a little bit bigger until we get some back like that. Perfect. Go back to our edit. That's looking pretty good to me. And now we've got a map that's moving around. And it was that easy. If we wanted to slow that down, well, we could go back to our Fusion comp, open Fusion, and we could go to our, where is it? This transform, the modifier, the displacement, and go like here instead, and set that keyframe, then remove that one. And now it would take longer. The problem is, because we did that, our tracking's off. So we have to go back to our planar tracker and go back to track. We're going to bring back the black background so it's easier for it to track it. Go back to our planar tracker. We're going to grab this like that. We're going to set this as our keyframe. It's going to wipe out all our tracking. Whoops, it moved it around too. There we go. Grab this and now retrack. Go and track backwards. Perfect. Bring the map back in and stabilize. And now if we go back to this, it should be back to normal, and it just moves a little bit slower. Still pretty fast, but you get the idea. Go back here, and now we've got our gameplay footage, for example, and we've got like our mini-map. And that's it. Hopefully this was useful to you guys or interesting. So what did we discover today? What did we learn? Well, we learned how to do a planar tracker to stabilize a shot and keep it in the center. We learned how to share a polygon shape amongst other elements to be able to animate on a polyline. What else did we figure out here? We used some backgrounds. This was a pretty easy one. We used some backgrounds to do some shapes, brought in a map, used a sharpen. That's about it. Really, the big thing was the planar tracker and sharing the shape of a polygon so that we can animate the position of elements down a polygon line. Hopefully this was useful to you guys. If you've got any requests for tutorials, feel free to ask them in the comments below or hit me up on Reddit. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.